Evening, chaps.
Evening.
How are we doing? We've got first podcast of a season for the Benchwarmers podcast, where we will be featuring many non-league stories across all the levels, all the pyramids. We've got by my side Gareth.
Good evening.
And Nick.
Hello.
And myself, Charlie, fellow non-league enthusiasts. We'll cover many different areas, as we said, across this podcast. But first of all, I think it's worth talking about some of the general overview of the pyramid. First of all, National League. Wrexham currently top of the National League. Spent God knows amount of money. Owned by the most famous owners in non-league football. Thoughts, chaps?
Nick?
It's got to be a good fun game, hasn't it? Certainly raised profile in non-league football.
I think you find that every team moans about clubs having people like this. But as a support of a non-league team, if, Hugh Jackman rocked up and said, I want to buy Ponty and I want to put 10 million quid into you and promote you to leagues, are any of us really going to have a problem with it? It's what we all dream of.
Well, yeah, it's just you're going to hate it if it's not you, but if it's you, you're going to love it, aren't you?
Exactly.
So in terms of the mass amount of wages that are being paid for the likes of Molineux scoring 30 goals already this season, came from League One side back to National League. Do we think it's bad for the game, or we think generally it's a good thing for non-league that this money is being spent at this kind of level?
I'm seeing a similar sort of thing with rugby union. It's affected rugby union in different ways. But I think if you've got one team, a non-league, that can do it, I think we've all said that we're all probably a little bit jealous of the situation that they're in. I can imagine if you're a rival of theirs, you're going to absolutely hate it and it's going to be the worst thing in the world. But if it's your team, the fact that it's getting the coverage that it is, I'm sure it'll be upping crowds at their level. It's got to be a good for a game for me. I know I keep saying it, but I just think it's good.
And also think when they go away, all of a sudden Wrexham fans are going to travel in huge numbers. So every away ground, you're going to get, maybe 600-700 fans more than what you'd normally get.
Rather than the usual 20 that are sitting in the cold on the road.
All the Torquay take away. If there's any Torquay fans listening, sorry. But yeah, I don't see how it's a bad thing. And what I do like about what Wrexham are doing is they're taking advantage of the fact that there's no financial fair play in the conference. So they're spending this money getting people in, like Mullins.
Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be more that have spent a lot of money on, knowing that there's no trap for them. They don't have to justify it further down the line. So they're just getting a head start. And
the other thing that you could say is a positive is that Bootlegger has probably gained extra followers from his new Wrexham owners. They'll be no doubt giving him some extra clout for his social media output. So ourselves obviously involved where we are in the Northern Premier League. Obviously there's a number of sides at the moment in our leagues that are pulling away at the top of their division, with the likes of South Shields, Worksop, Macclesfield, Stamford, more clubs that have quite clearly got a decent budget. Again, it's the same with Wrexham. They're up at the top of the league for a reason. Do you think it is solely down to the money that they're where they are?
It helps.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to South Shields in pre-season, and it was like going to a league ground. Fantastic facilities. You're talking to their guys there, and you've got people that are turning down Football League contracts to go and play at South Shields. So I'm sure they wouldn't be doing that if they were getting 50 quid for travelling.
No, there's certainly an argument for that.
If it was more Premier League standard or Championship standard, money is not as big as it is down here, because you could pay somebody like 100 quid a week down here, but if somebody, even if they're in the same league of you, then the wage was like 50% higher than yours, they could go and then no contract. So it's no like you have to pay the club or anything. The club's screwed. So it's mostly down to money in this league, but it
comes with its difficulties though, doesn't it? You look at some of the sides that have obviously had money over the last couple of years. South Shields, it's not like this money's come out of nowhere. They've struggled with being able to get over the line in terms of winning titles. So it obviously does have its difficulties. But with those sides that we mentioned there, it's quite a
it's not always a success. I mean, you look at FC United Manchester. I mean, they might be happy where they are, but you would expect a club with their facilities, and I would imagine their financial backing, to be jumping up the leagues a lot quicker than what they are.
Not terribly.
So it just shows sometimes it doesn't always go to plan or how you'd like it to.
That was the thing that struck me about South Shields when we went there, was how amazing their facilities were compared to the standard of our own facilities and the away games that we go to. They weren't a division higher than us. They were divisions and divisions above where we are, and better than some of the football league grounds that I've been to. It were incredible. So
you look at the teams that went up last year for like Liverpool and Mars went up last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You look at their grounds compared to South Shields and United Manchester, it's miles beyond.
It's divisions between.
I think the point is though is that they're investing in everything. They're not just investing in playing staff to get them up through the divisions. They're investing in everything to make a go of it at the right levels.
And you could argue all of those sides that we mentioned at the top, Macclesfield, there's obviously the documentary with Robbie Savage and their owner that's spent money on their ground to do it up. They've obviously spent plenty on their budget as well. It's not undocumented. And likes of Worksop and Stanford are the same. They've both got decent facilities. So it obviously on that side of things, the infrastructure certainly is something that's helping them a long way in their current form that they've got at the moment. So I think the next place to go is to our first main topic. It's a topic that has probably been talked about a lot more in the last few years than has been over probably the 5 years prior, but match postponements. With the good old coronavirus, we sort of saw the start of games getting called off sort of just days before games, some occasions even a full week before games. So we can start off with this one with some sort of the best and the worst that we've seen across the years gone by, and even some that we've gone forward for this season. For myself, obviously, we've had many at Ponty that we've seen. We've been to Sheffield FC that have probably had more postponements than games this year. I mean, we travelled last year to Sheffield. We got there with probably 20 minutes to go. And the game got called off of the waterlogged pitch after the officials have already been out, said that it's
Was it waterlogged or was it snow?
It was waterlogged that day. Chaps, anything that you can remember off the top of your head that you've got?
Go on, Lee.
I was just going to say I didn't mind that actually because they've got quite a nice pub next door that Thornbridge Brewery own, and I quite like that. Me and Emma went in there and had a pint or two and went back home again. I'm not saying we weren't cursing, but it wasn't the worst postponement in the world given their facilities.
The drive to Dronfield perhaps maybe
I'm
takes away
again,
from that, but
in the snow.
But yeah, certainly with this year, there's been a number that have been called off there that have seemed to be later than most sides would like. But like you say, there's every silver lining to that story. We've also had the likes of Bradford Park Avenue just last week, where they requested their game to be called off on the day of the game, only for the league to reject that request. You got stuff like where the league have obviously made them play that game, and they're having to play their academy boys because obviously they're down on numbers, suspensions and injuries and whatnot. And then obviously we were at Grantham last weekend.
Yes.
Who've certainly had their troubles this year. I think they went a couple of months without playing a home game due to moles on their pitch that have dug up their pitch I think the start of that was against Worksop Town.
It's where you get all the pictures that appear all over Twitter where the pitch all looks perfect and everything like that. And obviously, you don't know with that sort of situation. I'm not saying for a second that Grantham have done anything untoward, but it's just you don't. It
certainly looks a little bit suspect, doesn't it? When you get these videos that are propping up out of nowhere, and there's luscious green turf in the middle of summer, and all of a sudden there's calls of moles.
I didn't see much luscious green turf when we were there.
No, it was a little bit sandy to say the least. So you can understand where the mole shouts come from if that's the case. Just a couple of others that we've got here. So, for example, Longridge Town versus FC Isle of Man. That was again only recently. They've had to call the game off due to a floodlight stanchion collapsing, which there's not much arguing in terms of that front. You don't want to be running down the left wing and perhaps running under and through a floodlight stanchion.
Or it landing on your head.
Yeah, there's always that's never an ideal.
Just walk it off.
It'd be like like the Adam Sandler film Happy Gilmore, where he's having to play a putt through the tower that's collapsed. It's not quite the ideal circumstance. Obviously, COVID, we had many games that were called off. There's many across the pyramid that probably got called off that were a little bit suspect in terms of games being called off due to COVID. Maybe one or two positive cases, but there was certainly a couple of subjects.
It's got to be the first time I've not been allowed to go to a Ponty match because I wasn't allowed to leave Yorkshire. So when we played away at Liverpool AFC, I wasn't allowed to go because obviously how the things were at the time, and not being able to go to a match because you're not allowed out of your county. It seems strange even now to look back on and think that's where we were.
It's strange to think it's only 3 years ago, I think. Yeah. I think it was about March time when we locked down.
Yeah.
So since then, God knows how many postponements and cancelled games we've had, and that's not even including those that were cancelled with the season being sort of ended early.
There's been a few more, aren't there, though? I mean, you mentioned Sheffield, but Lincoln had one recently where it was called off for a frozen pitch.
Yeah, with 7 degrees of sunshine during the day, and it was called off at, I think it was midday time, was it?
No, it got an amazing science track record, but I'm pretty sure freezing point is below 7 degrees.
You'd argue that's a pretty fair guess, but you never know. In Lincoln, it's a strange part of the world, shall we say?
And also with that Sheffield, how can you possibly only realise that your pitch is waterlogged half an hour before kick-off? That takes something to do with it.
It's certainly a strange
one.
Let
me just, we've so far alienated Torquay,
Sheffield and Lincoln.
Sheffield and Lincoln, yeah.
I'm sure
they'll be
alienate everybody everywhere we go anyway. So
yeah, no doubt there'll be many more of us that will upset along the way, and no doubt it'll just be the start of a hatred of some fans not enjoying this particular podcast, but some others may find it funny at the same time.
I think we did well to do with the entire Wrexham link and not once mention Chester. So
I think Charlie's got some more Wrexham stuff to come though, ain't you?
I'm not going to talk too much about Chester.
If only
for the
I
time
read the agenda.
They wasn't particularly happy when we went there, shall we say?
I thought they had the agenda more than an hour.
So on to our next. In fact, I've got one more for that particular postponement, which you could argue is up there with the strange ones. We just before the pandemic hit, we were due to play Trafford FC in a league fixture, only for the game to be called off on the morning due to a police incident outside the ground. I don't know if you can remember that.
Yes,
one.
I remember it. Yeah,
there was the police incident was a suspected. I think it was a stabbing the morning of the game, which is never ideal for the away fans that are planning to make a trip to Trafford.
It's all right. That was when Monkhouse were in charge. I wouldn't have been going to that one. That's another one alienated.
Just add to that list.
A postponement, then it wasn't a defeat. Yeah. Is that what you mean?
But yeah, so again, another one for that bingo tick list. Monkhouse to that one. So on to the next topic. Obviously, for ourselves, everyone loves a good retro shirt, classic shirt. We'll bring on to non-league football shirts. There's every year you find that there's some weird and wonderful ones, some that are amazing and everyone will no doubt be interested in getting, some probably not so. I mean, first of all, I saw this pre-season, Chorley FC have brought out a pre-season kit, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's possibly the worst kit I've ever seen. Black with white scribbles on it. Now, it probably wasn't scribbles, but from a distance, it's not good on the eye. And the alternate pre-season kit was white with grey scribbles on it. Also, probably not scribbles, but still the same. It's I've never seen a professional side wear a pre-season kit. I'm not one that's going to be starting to look for a pre-season kit from Ponty this season.
What's the lead time on that?
How long our orders take to come anyway?
What's the lead time on that?
I'm moving on swiftly from that topic. Chaps, any other kits that are off the top of the head that you can think of?
At our level, where we are in non-league, and I'm sure this is pretty much across the board down here, it seems to me that not so much the kit choice and the kit's colours, it seems to be they don't get them big enough for the goalkeepers. We see a lot of goalkeepers, home and away, and I'm not bringing our keeper up on this, but a lot of them look to be struggling to get into the kits.
Yeah, there's certainly been a couple of tight shorts this year.
Yeah, there's some that you've been worried about ripping, and that's a sight none of us want to see on a Saturday afternoon.
No. And we know as goalkeepers are often divas and a bit of a strange anomaly in terms of your average footballer. But we've certainly encountered a couple this year that have either had some strange and brave colours, from the purple at Charnock. And
there's been a lot of purple this year. Purple seems to be the fashionable choice for
at the moment for goalkeepers.
It doesn't clash with anything, does it? That's the thing. We don't.
No, I can't say we've played anyone in.
Unless we play Harchester United, then we're going to be all right in purple, aren't we?
Yeah, I can't see it happening anytime soon. I don't think there's anyone
it's in our retro, isn't it?
Anyone in our league that'll be picking up any purple home strips or away strips this next season. Just a couple that I can think of that I've seen over the last sort of season itself. York City brought out their centenary kits this year, with it being obviously their 100th year. Just in case you forgot what centenary was.
Thanks, Charlie.
It's always helpful.
Obviously, with it being a centenary kit, it often links to a bit of history. And with York being somewhat known for its chocolate history, I'm not quite sure a brown and gold striped kit is one that.
See, I liked that. I thought it was quite nice, something quite different.
Brown on a football shirt just doesn't sound like it should be there, though, does it? I mean, there's many a colour that you can go for, but brown, it sounds like something you could do with after a day of running. But no, it's not one for myself.
I was in first mile, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there is that.
That's a different pod.
And then you've got Scunthorpe posting on social media a picture of their changing room pre-game with a goalkeeper proudly with a pair of elbow pads.
Beautiful.
Now, as far as the modern day goalkeeper goes, you see a lot of short sleeves or kind of a plain long sleeve shirt or a skin or whatever. Where do you stand, Gareth, as a former keeper on the old elbow pads?
It's pads every day a week. It's got to be pads every day a week. I'm not keen on this base layer malarkey underneath, and I think it all just becomes about fashion rather than comfort.
You've got to remember that you're talking to somebody who used to play in goal down at Ferrybridge Park, which might as well be made out of limestone. It's that hard. That's why he needed pads when he on his goal.
But then again, pictures are.
if you look at some of the grounds we've been at this year, and our goal mouth at the best you've seen, the elbow pad is probably.
But they're not too hard, though, are they?
Well, no. When there's well, it depends where you're going. You never know. You could find. Middle of summer, our goal mouths have been rock solid. It's not the worst idea, but it seemed to get a lot of negative comment, shall we say, following the image that we saw. And then a final one that I've seen this year, not so much a replica shirt, but Macclesfield with their travel wear that they've brought out this year. I don't know if you saw that. It's with their stadium sponsor, Boohoo Man. They're wearing kind of a bit of an American like varsity style jacket, and I'm not quite sure that should be anywhere near non-league football, let alone the higher end of the football pyramid.
I imagine Tom looks lovely in one of those, though, don't they?
Well, that's probably why he's in Love Island as we speak, and we're all sat in the middle of winter in Ponty Calls' clubhouse, while he's there in summer in his Boohoo jacket, proudly wearing his Macclesfield colours. On to our next section of the podcast, one that each week we'll try and bring on different clubs and try and get some different facts to spread the non-league word and a little bit of insight on some of those clubs. We've talked about them already. The most famous owners in non-league, Wrexham. We'll bring out some facts. I don't know if, Nick, you want to fire away first with what you've got?
Yeah, I know you mentioned about having a bit of a pet team of the pod and mentioned Wrexham. And there's a bit of a tale I've got about Wrexham. It's to do with Mickey Thomas, a Wrexham hero and legend. I was lucky enough to see him play for Leeds, and he played for many a football league team. And when he came to Leeds, he was one of Howard Wilkinson's first signings in promotion season of 89-90. he played for a number of teams. He played for Man United. I'm not sure if he played for Chelsea and a few other different league teams. And he came to Leeds from Shrewsbury. And he only played a handful of games for Leeds. But we'd seen him at first team, we'd seen him in reserves. And this was at a time when I used to go with Mum and Dad to watch football, and I'd have only been...
So no swearing on the terraces.
Yeah, a bit different them days. There were lots of swearing around me, but perhaps I wasn't doing it. So I'd only have been about 10, 11, 12, something like that. Leeds got promoted, and Mickey, when he did play, he gave absolutely everything, and I'm sure everyone who watches non-league football or any level of football just wants to see players who give everything. And it became a bit of a household favourite of ours, even though he'd played only a handful of games. Moved on to different teams, and he ended up at Wrexham, and it was part of, I don't know if you might remember this, Gaff, Wrexham beat Arsenal in an FA Cup game.
Too young for that, Nick, sorry.
I'm certainly too young for it if you're too young for it. So.
Well, you'll have seen it because they always show the goals on any FA Cup giant killings. And Mickey Thomas curled one over wall to make it 1-1. And then Wrexham went on to win 2-1 against George Graham's Arsenal. And this was at a time when there were no European competitions because we were banned from everything. And the FA Cup was quite a prestigious thing. So Mickey Thomas, all of a sudden, was a bit of a hero. So they go on to win. And it was at a time before social media, and like I say, he was a bit of a hero in our house. So there's no tweeting him to say well done or anything like that. And my mum was, and still does, if she wants to get in touch with anyone, she writes them a letter. So she writes.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so she writes Mickey Thomas this letter to congratulate him on how well he'd done and say that we were big fans of his at Leeds. And
I'll be honest, when you said that you had a Wrexham story,
yeah.
When you brought your mum into this, I were really confused to where this was going. But
Yeah,
I'm open to listen.
So she sends him a letter to congratulate him on his achievement, how well that Wrexham have done. And times pass by, and next we hear about Mickey Thomas. He's not on back pages of tabloids. I don't know if you remember this, Gaff, but he gets done for money laundering.
Yeah. Did he go to prison for a little bit?
Yeah, he did. He got done for counterfeiting money and money laundering. So it's quite a fall from grace. He's all over back pages.
Getting a letter from Nick's mum.
So he's all over back pages for his giant killing, and then next is in front pages for counterfeiting money. So more time passes by, and we've not heard anything. That's a distant memory that it's gone. And I come home from school one day, so I'm only like 12 at this time. And there's a letter. As I'm going upstairs, and went front door is, and I'm thinking, this handwritten, there's this handwritten letter. So I was dressed to my mum, so I picks it up and I goes through into the room, and everyone sat there, my mum, my dad, my brother. I gives my mum letter, and I said, letter for you, and it's like, even then, even though letter what main means of communication or telephone, whatever, but it's handwritten, it's not printed, so what on earth's this? It's not a birthday card. So I kind of hung about. And I guess my mum and dad realised that I'd hang about, and that'll become apparent. So they open this letter, and it's a signed photo of Mickey Thomas.
Not in prison, I hope.
What else is in that envelope?
It's not a 50 quid note, is it?
£10 note. But it turned out that my mum had managed to open that letter without damaging the seal on it. Saw what it was, put it back in, put a £10 note in, knew I'd come home and go, oh, what's that letter that you've got? Opens this letter up, signed photo of Mickey Thomas.
Is it £10 note?
You see, I would never have told you if I'd have been your mum that she put that tenner in.
I'd have definitely pocketed that tenner.
That would always have been Mickey's.
Mickey's written back to you. He's given you a picture. No else, it was just a picture.
worst bit of story is I don't know where that photo's gone. It'd been brilliant to bring that photo along tonight, like. But yeah, I think that's the one and only prank that my mum's ever played on me, and she executed it perfect.
Brilliant.
As far as Wrexham stories go, you'll probably go quite far to beat that, and it makes my two facts look a little bit boring. And
They look better than mine.
well, that's never a yardstick that is going to be hard to beat. But I'll fire back at that with one about, obviously Wrexham are well known for at the moment their Goliath status. Their David versus Goliath status in the FA Cup this year, getting as far as Sheffield United before getting knocked out. But their ground is actually part of a world-beating statistic. The club's ground is the oldest international stadium that's still in use in the whole entire world, with their last fixture being Wales versus Trinidad in 2019. So out of all the grounds in the world, it is the oldest that is still in use for international football. So in terms of Nick's story, mine has just absolutely stunk the room out there.
No, it's good though. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Gareth, have you got one to fire back at, or are you going to let me go again with my second one?
Go again.
So Nick's mentioned about Wrexham and a bit of history there with Mickey Thomas. Well, many people know about Wrexham Lager, which Wrexham is probably as well known for as their football side until recent years. But it was the first brewer in the UK to produce lager as we sat here drinking our Budweisers. Obviously, the clue's in the name in terms of Wrexham Lager as to why. But it's we mentioned Bootlegger earlier. It's probably why he's all of a sudden got himself into his Pilsners and he's got his draft pump in his kitchen, enjoying his grueler of a day. We'll go on to our next and final topic of this particular one, and you're going to be upset to hear that it wasn't on your agendas, chaps.
Did you not have a Wrexham fact, Gaff?
No, Nick.
Gaff didn't prepare himself for this. He thought he'd come in and just wing it.
I didn't think we were really going to do it.
Well, we're here now, so we're probably 30 minutes deep, and it's happened. So I'm going to bring on another topic that is one that we've become well averse to complaining about as the season's gone on, and as probably most seasons go on in terms of the standard of officiating. I think Saturday for us was a yardstick of how bad it's probably been this year, and we had 3 officials that I don't think between them had, if you were to mark them out of 10, I don't think one of them got above a 4, which is probably a fair...
I don't think they got a 4 between them.
Yeah.
Them all together.
So we had one guy on the far touchline that was, again, in 7 degrees heat in Grantham, was wearing leg skins and a thermal top. And I don't think he got above...
And gloves.
Yeah, and a pair of gloves with his flag. Not that should give you any description of his performance, but it was a bit of an idea. It gives you an idea as to what was to come, but it was it seems to be a theme that this year, I know I've said it a couple of times, that you're probably not as worried about the opposition that we're going to come up against as to what the officials are going to perform as.
I thought it was actually the best out of the 3 officials was the one with the guy with the skins.
Well, that says something. They were awful as well.
But I mean,
it's like that one in second half, the one closest to touchline, where our guy clearly kicked the ball out of play and he would just give it half throw in. Yeah. Everybody, even she was like, "That's clear," and then being challenged said, "Well, that's just clearly wrong." It's clearly
there was a number of questionable decisions, but the one that was the most clear cut somehow led to an accusation that Lloyd had cheated on social media, where the striker's run across his path as he's clearing the ball. I can't decide whether he's took an elbow to the chest or a leg to the calf as he's cleared the ball. Clear yellow card, opposed to his first one that was, I don't think he even touched the man for his first yellow card. But I just think this season as a whole, I think we've struggled to find many games that have had decent officials. I think that's a fair comment to make.
I'd agree with that. I mean, it's not, before I say anything, it's not a job I want to do.
Well, as you know, I was a referee as a young strapping lad. Minus the strapping.
Yeah, and I abused you under my breath many times, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, and to be honest, I wish I'd have took it up and continued, because with some of the officials, well, that's a bit harsh, but I'll carry on regardless. I think with some of the the states of the officials that we've had this year, and the money that they get in their expenses and their mileage and whatever else, I feel like I'd be able to do a much better job on most weeks. And I think that as much as that might be a little bit of a humble brag, it's been quite disappointing.
There's a couple of bits for me. There seems to be an awful lot of guessing, and I hate it when they're guessing, when they're clearly guessing on decisions. They're going off what people are appealing. They're not really looking if there's contact, looking to see what people's reactions are afterwards, listening to the shouts. And don't get me wrong, we're as good as any team for appealing and begging.
Gareth's favourite shout this year.
Yeah.
Begging! I'm begging!
Stop begging!
And that's been a common thing. But in most cases, it's probably worked when players have been begging, fans have been begging. If you've been hit the loudest, you often get the decision.
Yeah, like Nick said, it's a lot of times it's just the decisions been made is so delayed from the actual thing to place. It's like when we played Grantham, we had like a 6-second delay between them, seeing the foul actually being committed and then it being given. So it's like he had no clue. He just thought, you know what, here it is. Let's just give it.
It's a case of blowing the whistle and
there's
hoping that it's the right decision.
And there's a lot of like things where referees feel like they have to correct a mistake. So if there was a blatant penalty in boxing doesn't get given, they'll give a foul to the team that they did give it to later down the line to make up for it. It's like just get the decision right in the first place.
One of my favourite things about non-league football and why I prefer non-league football to league football as a supporter is I think I genuinely go to matches thinking I can make a difference from the touchline. I think if I will go places and I'm not condoning it, I'm not saying it's right, but I know, and I've had times when I can barrack a referee that much that it will give us something.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I can vouch for you on that front.
Cheers.
I think that's certainly something that I've seen from the last couple of years since we've started watching games together. It looks like you enjoy it.
I do. There's nothing better. I can't run around and actually do the actual football part of it. So if I can go home on a Saturday night and think, you know,
that keeper's had it today.
He's had, I might have made that official give us something that he didn't want to.
Yeah. You've got to be a special sort of character, though, haven't you? To want to put that black outfit on and go on and referee or even run line. When we watch them officials come off at Grantham, there were both sets of players not agreeing with them. There were both sets of fans showing their displeasure at how they had performed throughout the game.
Displeasure is probably a kind term, to say the least.
You just think, we need them. We need officials. Yeah. We need officials, and we want good officials, don't we? And that's the point. We want good officials. But you've got to be a special, certain character to go in there and do that when you know you're going to have at least 22 players and however many fans on your back.
Do we want good officials?
I'd rather say that I've not got a migraine from shouting and screaming. You've just got things totally wrong for 90 minutes.
If we've got good officials, what are we talking about now?
We'd be talking about...
We'd be on his way home.
Tom Flair on Love Island.
And that's part of the enjoyment is going to a game and driving back from Timbuktu or whatever we've been.
And how many miles away is Timbuktu?
How many miles away is it?
I'll ask him. She'll know.
It's by an airport.
And would you have gone that way?
That's not where I had to go. But this part of the enjoyment is having that venting your anger to your mates on the way back. Saying, I can't believe what he's done to us there. I can't believe he gave us that. And that's part of the enjoyment.
You travel 1.5 hours from a away game, you come back and all you're doing is literally just abusing referee for how shocking it is.
It's that frustration. It's that frustration when you're on the receiving end. And I think when you look at how many red cards that we've had this year and how many we shouldn't have had in some instances and some of the decisions that have gone against us. But at the same time, I forget the ones that went for us.
Exactly.
But I just know that we seem to have had a lot more red cards than opposition that we've played against.
I mean, from my perspective, obviously, when I've looked back at the highlights the next day, it seems to be the first thing that I end up looking for is that penalty that's given for a handball that was a yard outside the box. You've got
That's just because how you are.
yeah, I brought that one back up. A yard outside the box, the linesman's flagging for a free kick, and the referee, without knowing where this ball has made contact, had just blown for a penalty.
I had quite a big argument with the pensioner that day.
You did indeed, and I thought that's why I'd bring it up. Because again, that's another thing. There's no segregation at our level of football, and you often find that there's many a disagreement.
Have you had any disagreements with pensioners, Charlie?
I may or may not. I may have been called a soft gentleman at one particular game in Bradford.
No, it was more of a ladies' part, wasn't it?
Yeah, all right. It was a ladies' part that I was called a soft. By technicality, he wasn't calling me, but I'll take it nonetheless.
He definitely felt aimed at you.
But yeah, obviously on that end topic there, we're talking about why we love non-league football and why we ended up getting involved from our side of things, Gareth, on a volunteer basis in the club. It's something that obviously we've got different reasons for how we got in, but it's usually the same reasons why people end up staying and hanging about. You've got obviously the closeness to the pitch that obviously players and referees can hear you. We had an episode at home this year where Harry Maguire's brother got a little bit of stick, so to speak, and that again we're touching on Sheffield FC here. Not to get on at the oldest club in the world, they like to tell everyone.
No, let them have it.
They can have it, yeah, that's true.
Can we have them to list twice? We've been alienated
so
now.
they've been crossed out twice on the bingo tick list. But yeah, one particular defender wasn't particularly pleased that his brother took a little bit of stick. I think it was a certain Manchester United centre-half that probably might have done a better job on Sunday.
I remember in our promotion season, when we got promoted from the Northern Counties East Division 1, we played Hallam in a vitally important game. And where you can get players at this level to bite, it was Hallam keeper's 40th birthday, and we were giving it to him big time. And we had a little bit of a rascal up front at the time. I'm sure you both remember him.
I think Rascals.
Rascal, yeah.
He's ever been called. He's called many worse.
I'm trying to be polite, but shout out to Jordan Turner if you hear this. And he was giving the keeper a little bit of banter as he normally likes to do, and he accidentally stood on the keeper's toes.
Accidentally is the key word. Yeah, there.
Accidentally
stood again.
And the keeper took a bit of a swing for him and got dismissed. And the enjoyment that I got along with the lads at the back of that night singing "Happy Birthday to you" as he was sent off and walking down the pitch. That's the enjoyment.
Before he went to jump over the barriers to take on another fan in the main stand as well. It's just one of many wild and wonderful stories.
And you don't get that at league football.
No. Well, you probably have, but it's not quite the same level as of interest in stewards trying to convene.
If you take Cantona out of it, I've never seen anybody try to attack people in crowds at league grounds.
Probably not as frequent, shall we say, not as easy to happen.
I've not been threatened at league football. I haven't no league, so I'm always on the ball.
Well, there is a good starting point. Obviously, with this one being our first episode, we'll look to try and get one of these quite as frequent as possible, but probably towards maybe one a month, one every 3 weeks. So next episodes, should I say, we'll bring on some different topics and some different content to put together. But for those that have tuned in, thank you very much. You've got myself, Charlie. We've got Gareth and Nick and Lennon with us, and thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.